He watched his friend taken in a squad car 20 years later. He fights back. In 1998, on Chicago's South Side, 15-year-old Omari Wade watched his best friend, Darnell Byrd, get shoved into an unmarked squad car after basketball practice. He ran to the principal. He ran to the station. No one logged a call. No incident report. By morning, it was like Darnell never existed, his name quietly vanishing from paperwork, his school file thing to nothing, his mother told he was a runaway. 2 decades later, a hidden cache of police documents surfaces in a junked file server, and Omari sees the case number that was erased and the badge numbers of the cops who took his friend. Quick heads up before we jump in. If you're into real stories, strange disappearances, and the kind of truths people try to bury, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what comes next. All right, let's get into it. Now out on parole and holding his life together by a thread, Omari discovers digital traces of a secret city task force that swept young black boys from certain neighborhoods during gang crackdowns. With the help of Kenya Abrams, a sharp, relentless journalist who grew up a few blocks from him, Omari pulls at threads the city thought it had cut: redacted memos, sealed juvenile holds, and a list of names that never made it into the news. As they dig, they collide with a maze of institutional silence, stalling tactics, and old officers who either can't remember or won't. Some of those officers are black, tired of being told to keep their heads down. Others are determined to bury the past. Omari has to relive the night he failed to protect Darnell, and he carries the guilt like a locked fist. But as the danger climbs break-ins, shadowing cars, an anonymous voicemail warning him to stop, he realizes the truth is uglier than he imagined. Someone close profited from Darnell's disappearance. The past didn't die. It was filed under a different name. The night Darnell vanished tasted like winter pennies, cold air, and iron on the tongue. The streetlights on 63rd hummed like tired bees. The gym at Auburn Ridge High had emptied slow, kids drifting onto the sidewalk in clumps, laughing, talking trash, steam pouring off their shoulders into the November dark. Coach locked the cage of basketballs with a click and reminded us about grades like anyone's GPA was going to matter if we made a run in state. Darnell had the kind of smile that made corners louder. He snapped his backpack strap and said, "Race you to the bus." "Oh." "On your best day," I said. We jogged the first block, then slowed. 2 men stood near the curb by a gray Crown Vic, the kind with dull chrome and a broken taillight that still glowed ruby under the fuzz in the lens. No light bar. The men weren't in uniform, but they carried themselves like authority, feet apart, hands loose, shoulders high the way cops move when they're not trying to be cops. "Byrd?" one said. "Darnell Byrd?" Darnell half-turned, confused. "Who's asking?" "Coach sent us," the other said. "You missed a meeting about recruitment. We can take you to the station quick. Call your moms?" Darnell laughed like it was a dumb joke. I knew a lie when I heard it, but I was 15 and still believed a lie could be fixed with the right adult. Before I could say anything, the first man grabbed Darnell's elbow, not rough, but not gentle either. "Come on," he said. "You want that scholarship or not?" "Hold up," I said. "Which station?" "I can call Mrs. Byrd right now." "Relax," the second man said, showing me a flick of something leather and shiny that could have been a badge or a wallet. "We're on your side." That's when the door popped open and the car swallowed him. A single yanked breath, a look from Darnell that read wait, and the door clapped shut. The Crown Vic rolled off. No siren, just that low V8 grumble, taillight blown on the left. I ran so hard my lungs tore at my ribs. I ran to Coach, who was sipping burnt coffee in the office. He frowned when I told him. He called the 7th District. They said no one was picked up. I ran to the beat car, parked by the laundromat. The officer, a woman with tired eyes, told me to go home. If he's in trouble, his mama will get a call, she said. Don't go making up stories. By morning, the school had erased his name from the attendance sheet, like it smudged. By afternoon, a rumor bloomed that he'd run off to Indiana with a cousin. By the end of the week, the city had moved on to a murder on the Red Line. Mrs. Bird stood on her porch in a robe, arms crossed over her chest, like she was holding herself in place. I didn't know how to hold anything. Years fold like maps. That's the thing nobody says when you're young. Time doesn't just go forward. It folds, and you're always standing in some crease. The present smells like oil and citrus cleaner. I'm on my back under a Chevy Impala at Manny's Auto on 79th, trying to torque a bolt that someone over-tightened with their whole ego. Sweat runs down my neck. The radio whispers an old R&B song through a bad speaker. My parole officer says structure is good for me. Manny says rent is due on Fridays in cash. I tell myself both can be true. Omari, Manny calls. You got a visitor. I slide out and blink at the light. The visitor is short, sharp-cheeked, wearing a black wool coat and a journalist's habit of scanning a room for exits. Kenya Abrams. We went to the same elementary school for a minute. She was the kid who corrected teachers when they got facts wrong. You ducking my messages? She says, I don't duck. I screen, I say, wiping my hands on a rag that used to be a church shirt. She purses her mouth like she's trying not to smile. I have something you're going to want to see. Last time someone said that, I woke up with a tattoo I don't remember. Manny yells from the office, then laughs at his own joke. Kenya tilts her chin at the back bay. It's loud out here. We step into the storage room, chilly and crowded with bumpers and boxes that say Napa in faded blue. She produces a slim external hard drive from her pocket the way a magician palming a coin does. You been watching YouTube tutorials on crime? I say. City auctioned off surplus electronics. I bought an old file server for $40. It's a graveyard of PDFs and emails. Most of it's junk, but the indexer left some shards. Digital ghosts, her eyes light, including a half-deleted folder, sweep_98. My mouth dries. She doesn't know the way that number sits behind my ribs like a chunk of ice. 1998 was a year and a wound. I'll bite, I say, trying to keep my voice casual. What's sweep_98? What I'm trying to find out, she says. I figured you might have. Context. She eyes my face like a detective. I can feel the scar above my eyebrow souvenir from a night in county when someone decided my tray looked better on his table. I can feel the years since the Crown Vic. I say nothing. Just look, she says, unspooling a laptop and booting it. The screen glows, and she navigates a directory with file names like _intake _phone _tmp and ROO324 Kenya clicks one open. It's an internal memo on CPD letterhead. 3 paragraphs are blacked out. The remaining text mentions targeted juvenile pickups for questioning in the context of ongoing anti-gang initiatives. The phrase, temporary hold, no charge, and a list of initials and badge numbers. My breath shortens. Scroll, I say. She scrolls to the bottom, to a table. Date, location, initials, disposition. November 12, 1998. Auburn Ridge High Gym and X. DB. Disposition. Family declined to cooperate. That's a lie, I say before I can help it. We never, his mom begged. Kenya studies me. DB? I close my eyes and see the ruby fog of a broken taillight. Darnell Bird. We stand with that name hanging like a bell. Kenya knows his face, the flyers, the black and white photo from freshman year, where his smile is warm but not cocky. You don't forget missing boys where we grew up. You make a pantry shelf of them in your head and add canned goods of grief. There's more, she says. It's messy. Whoever tried to delete these didn't know about underlying caches. There's a spreadsheet of juvenile notes that reads like someone's private log. And there's a JPEG of an index card with a case number that shouldn't exist. She pulls up the photo. The card is yellowed, typed on an old machine. Case no. 98A R646. Not for official entry. Initials, KHTJ. A line in pencil. Blue sweep. The rest is blurred as if someone smeared a thumb over wet ink 20 years ago. Look at the initials, she says. KHTJ. Badge numbers next to them in the memo match 2 officers. Detective Kyle Holt. Officer Terrence Janssen. Janssen, I repeat. The name tastes rusty. Terrence Janssen worked plainclothes in our zone back then. You remember him? I remember his car. Broken left taillight. Kenya looks at the JPEG like it might lower its guard if she stares long enough. You tell me yes, I can get you a meeting with a retired cop who owes me a favor. He'll either curse me out or he'll talk. Either way, I get copy. And me? I say. You get what you came home looking for. She sees me flinch and softens. You okay on time? I know the rules. Parole eats your calendar. Meetings that radiate power. Your officer, your UA tests, your job checks. I pull out my cheap phone and look at the time. I can give you an hour. That's all I need. We meet in the back room of a diner on Cottage Grove. Linoleum sticky with sugar, chalkboard specials refusing to be erased. The retired cop is small and paled by a winter milk coat can fix. His name is Otis Brooks. He joined CPD in the 80s, made detective right before the '92 convention, retired in 2009 with a bar crowd that slapped his back so hard he thought he might crack. Kenya orders coffee for all of us. Mr. Brooks stirs a sugar packet into his cup like it's medicine. His hands tremble until the spoon touches ceramic, then steady. Old habits? They send kids home sometimes, he says, not for the first time, as if the words might soften with repetition. Picked him up, scared him, sent him home. It wasn't illegal. It was illegal if you didn't log it, Kenya says. Mr. Brooks looks at her, then me. You're Bird's boy's friend. I am, I say. My voice comes out rough. He nods like this fits a shape he already had. Blue sweep, he says. You hear that from me, and I'll deny it for the rest of my life. It wasn't a unit. It was an attitude, a season. Folks with the same idea. The city wants streets quiet for the tourists, for the convention, for the donors, for the alderman who promised someone something. You sweep the corners. You sweep fast. Names, Kenya says. I was never in that. He lies. He sips. Holt was loud. Brotherhood type, but only with his friends. Janssen. He was a boy playing cop with his father's gun. Used to park a block off the corner so he could jump out and catch kids dirty for weed and feel like a cowboy. They didn't log everything. They were told not to sometimes. Quotas don't look good when they're the wrong kind of number. What happened to Darnell? I ask. The question feels like I'm lifting something heavy with my throat. Brooks' eyes go kind. It scares me. If I had the answer, I'd have given it to his mama in a grocery aisle in '05 when she cried over canned beans. They picked him up. I heard it. I heard Holt brag about scaring a pretty boy point guard straight. Said the kid had too much shine for his own good. But after, it went quiet. That's what I remember, the quiet. Like someone shut a door. Kenya slides the laptop around, shows him the index card photo. He looks, and for a second, a flinch rides his face. Where'd you get that? Doesn't matter, Kenya says. Is 98AA646 real? Everything is real, and nothing is, Brooks says. An old cop's riddle. Case numbers can be clerical errors. Or they can be doors to rooms you aren't allowed in. You want to open it. He aims that at me like a dare. You got to be ready for the room. I think of county. I think of a cinder block cell that smelled like last night's sweat. I think of Mrs. Bird's porch, the robe, the hunger. I'm ready. He crushes a sugar packet in his fist. Holt lives out in Orland now. He fishes on weekends. He got promoted, then he didn't. Internal Affairs sniffed around in '04. Then the department folded the file when it turned into somebody higher-up's headache. Janssen bounced to a suburban department in River Ford, got himself a sergeant's stripe, pulled over black kids for plates lights for sport, quiet enough to keep it tidy. If you want to start there. He slides a napkin to us. On it, 2 addresses in scratch. Do not say my name. Would you testify? Kenya asks. Brooks laughs into his coffee. I got a granddaughter who thinks the world is fair. My job is to not prove her wrong that fast. He taps the table twice. A cop goodbye. Then he stands and leaves money under the salt shaker and is gone. Kenya watches him go. Well, she says, that's either a gift or a setup. Maybe both, I say. Mrs. Bird's house sits on a block of bungalows that lean on each other like old sisters. The paint is still the same chipped blue. The porch light stays on day and night. It isn't a light. It's a flag. She answers the door in a sweater with a string of pearls, 2 armor pieces that don't match. Her face is tired where it wasn't tired before. Omari, she says, as if she's been letting my name sit on her tongue for years and now finally tastes it. You got tall. Too late for the league, I say. It's a joke, but not. She lets us in, because she has always let us in. The living room has Darnell in it still. A trophy with a basketball on top. A framed photo. A folded Letterman jacket inside a shadow box. A candle on the mantel that has burned so often, the wax climbed over itself and became a white heap, a geology of flame. We're working on something, Kenya says. We wanted your permission before we print a word. If you want us to leave, we will. Mrs. Bird touches the edge of the shadow box. You think a mother turns away from the first piece of truth in 20 years? I tell her about the memo, the index card, the initials. I am careful with words. My slang tucks itself away like kids do when company comes. She sits with her hands folded like she's in church, nodding. They said he ran away, she says finally. They asked me if he ever got mad, if he ever stole, if he ever hit me. Working so hard to find a reason to not work hard at all. I told them he left his Jordans by the door. What boy runs away without his shoes? Kenya asks gently about the night, the hours before. Mrs. Bird answers like she has answered 1,000 times, each answer wearing smoother like a stone in a stream. She takes a breath. There's something I never told anyone because no one asked. A week after he went missing, someone called my house on a line I didn't give to anyone. They let the phone ring 8 times. When I picked up, they didn't speak. There was a click, and then I heard my boy's breathing, like he was trying not to cry. I said, Nellie? Baby? And a man's voice came on and said wrong number. Then he hung up. She stares at the carpet, as if the voice is stitched into the fibers. I called the police. A woman told me I was confused. Kenya and I look at each other. In the silence, I can hear wheels beginning to turn. Do you still have the phone bill? Kenya asks. Baby, Mrs. Bird says, with a kind of injured pride, I saved everything. She gets up and goes to the hall closet. When she returns, her arms hold an old accordion folder exploding with paper. She settles it on the coffee table, opens the brass latch, and begins laying out bills like tarot. Kenya leans in. I do too, careful not to drip oil from the cuffs of my coveralls. The bill for that month shows a call at 2:17 a.m., 7 minutes, incoming, private caller. The fine print lists the originating. Exchange, 773-5550 Onyx X. Kenya traces it with a finger as if heat will smudge the ink. An exchange on the south side, she murmurs. But more importantly, the timestamp. The night after pickup. Can you find the exact number? I ask. Maybe. She takes a photo with her phone. Old exchanges narrow it down. A handful of payphones still existed then, and some precincts had outbound lines that masked as private. Mrs. Bird's eyes shine with something dangerous, hope. I almost tell her to be careful, but who am I to ration a mother's hope? We promise to come back. On the porch, she holds my wrist and looks up at me. If this hurts worse before it gets better, I can take it, she says. I've been training. I nod, because anything else would be a lie. Riverford is an invented name for a familiar suburb. Wide lanes, new churches, older racism that dresses better. We drive out in Kenya's Honda, heater protesting. Your Po okay with you crossing the city line? She asks. She would be if I told her, I say, and we both laugh, because sometimes all you have is the joke about the rules you're breaking. Jansen's department is a low brick building with a flag that snaps like a scold. We don't go inside. We sit in the car and watch. Kenya balances the camera on the steering wheel. A man emerges in a black coat and sunglasses he doesn't need in February. He's older, thicker, but the arrogance is youth's only vitamin, and it lasts. That him? Kenya asks. I think so. Adrenaline pours into my mouth like metal. Turn the camera. We film him smoking, talking to a younger officer who nods too fast. He flicks ash into the parking lot without looking. When he climbs into his cruiser, we catch the number on the side. Kenya exhales. We just need one thread we can pull in public. A open records request timed right with a phone company record. A retired cop on background. He's not going to give us a quote, I say. I don't need a quote. I need a contradiction. We follow him as far as the main drag before Kenya pulls off. Too hot, she mutters. He'll clock us. Back in the city, we hit the library microfilm section like it's a warm bar. Kenya feeds dimes into a machine that wails old secrets. She chases mentions of Holt, of juvenile initiatives, of press conferences where the mayor glows and the superintendent stands like a bookshelf. She copies 2 clippings. One is a photo of Holt at a podium in 1999, mouth open, jaw hard. The caption, Detective praises community partnership. The other is a small story about evidence gone missing from a storage unit that was never supposed to hold evidence. No follow-up. Convenient, Kenya says. At the end of the day, my phone buzzes. Parole officer. I step into the hallway, where a teenager is explaining to his granddad what a printer queue is. Mr. Wade, Officer Givens says, even though she knows I hate the mister. Random today. You near the office? Yes, ma'am. I lie, because she taught me the difference between lying and giving someone a head start. On my way. Kenya reads my face when I return. Go. I'll keep working. You sure? She smiles without showing teeth. I can be nosy without you. On the bus, I watch the city pass blocks where I learned to ride a bike, blocks where I learned to run. The bus creeps through a police checkpoint that looks casual until you see who they pull. My ribs tighten. At the office, I pee in a cup with the resigned rhythm of an old song. Givens gives me a nod when the strip stays clean. How's work? She asks. She's a black woman in her 40s with a voice like a bell clear, steady, no surprise. Greasy. I say. And the other thing? She knows. Everyone knows. I've been seen at Mrs. Bird's. I've been seen with Kenya. I've been seen breathing in a way that says my mind is not at peace. I'm not looking for trouble, I say. Trouble doesn't need your help to find you, she says, and slides a calendar across the desk. Next appointment, if you're. Investigating takes you out of county. You call me first, not after. And Omari, be careful. There are people who go to great lengths to protect the story they told themselves. I want to ask which story she means, theirs or mine. Instead, I pocket the calendar and thank her. At night, sleep is a stubborn lock. When it finally opens, I dream of the Crown Vic. In the dream, I catch the door before it shuts, and Darnell's hand is warm and slick, and I pull, and the car pulls, and my shoulder cracks, and the street spins, and I scream soundlessly as the taillight blurs red. I wake to my phone vibrating angrily on the milk crate I use as a knitstand. It's 3:08 a.m., a voicemail from an unknown number. I play it with my heart already sprinting. Static, a breath, the hush of tires in wet street. A man's whisper, "Stop, before you get someone hurt." The line clicks. Then a second. A breath I know like my own. Oh? A boy's voice from a lost year, thin as paper. "Oh, you there?" Then the beep. I sit up so fast, the mattress springs complain. I play it again. And again. The first voice is masked, flattened. The second is a memory, but it's not just a memory. It's recorded on my cheap phone on a Tuesday night in 2025. I call Kenya. She answers on the second ring, because reporters are vampires who nap instead of sleep. "Send it," she says. I do. She listens, then sucks air through her teeth. That second voice. "Yeah," I say it. It sounds like him. She is careful. She is a person who checks. Where did the call come from? Unknown, I say. Private numbers leave footprints, she says. They get sloppy when they're cocky. I'll see what I can do. Don't go anywhere weird tonight. I sleep weird, I say. I know, she says, and she is gentle. We'll triangulate. I'll check the old phone bill exchange against. Payphone still on record in 98. I'll pull precinct outbound logs if I can. We'll see if this number piggybacks off a VoIP bounce. And Omari, forward that voicemail to 3 different emails and to Mrs. Bird. Make copies. If they think they can scare you with a ghost, give the ghost company. I do as she says. I also plug a second-hand thumb drive into my laptop and copy every file I have twice. The next day, Kenya brings me a gift, a name for a communications technician who worked for the city in the late 90s. He now fixes pinball machines in a basement arcade in Logan Square. His name is Theo. He's Filipino, 60-ish, and looks at us like we're another game that will eat his quarters. Phones back then were analog, he says over the clang of metal and the chirp of an 8-bit soundtrack. You could sit a line on top of another line if you had the patience and the wire nuts. Precincts used PBXs that were ancient even then. You could run a call and mask it like it never happened if you knew the right trope. People think the past is dumb because it's old. The past is dumb because it's human. Kenya shows him the bill photo. He nods, interested despite himself. 7735550XX. That's a block assigned to public outlets. Payphones, mostly. This prefix serviced Englewood and Washington Park. I could tell you where every payphone on that block was if I could time travel, which is harder than fixing a pinball's flipper. What about precinct lines, I ask. He makes a face. Dirty. They played games. Outbound calls from certain desks would look like they came from nowhere. But if you had a raw switch log from that week and you matched it to the telco, you might pull a routing pattern. If you gave me a case of beer and the right login, maybe I'd draw you a map. We can't get that login, Kenya says. Theo smiles at her with a kind of old man gallantry. Honey, in this city, you either can't get it or you already have it, and you're trying to see how much it costs to use it. On the walk back to the car, Kenya texts someone, frowns at the reply, and then looks up at me. I have another thing, she says carefully. You're not going to like it. Try me. She hesitates. I filed a FOIA a month ago for sealed juvenile hold logs from 98. I expected a denial. I got a partial. It lists a hold that night at a temporary facility in the basement of the 7th District Annex, that isn't supposed to exist. It lists a boy, initials DB, age 15. It lists a supervising officer, Holt. It lists a secondary. She stops. Just say it, I say, an ache uncoiling. Luttrell, she says. Coach Luttrell Davis, secondary. I stop walking. ACTA bus belchers, past the driver looking at us like we're scenery. I laugh once, without humor. No, I checked, Kenya says. Before he coached, he did 3 years as an auxiliary officer while he finished his degree. He quit in '97. He still did community liaison work for CPD during special operations. He was a bridge between school and station. The FOIA could be wrong. It could be a bad match. But the document is stamped and initialed. The sky presses close. He told us to pack the rack after practice, I say. He told Darnell he had people at the local college. He said stay after. We'd work on free throws. He kept us in the gym and out of the street. He opened the door when someone knocked, Kenya finishes. Maybe. We don't know yet. My fists are tight enough to hurt. I picture Coach's whistle swinging on a cord, the way he taught us to pivot by tapping our shoes with his own. A man can be 2 things. A man can be 3. My stomach turns. Let's go see him, I say. Kenya nods. Now? Now, I say, and anger feels like caffeine. Coach Davis lives in a tidy brick 2-flat in Chatham. He answers the buzzer on the second ring and tells us to come up, his voice warm as always. He has gotten whiter by the hair and thicker by the middle, but his eyes are the same stern, kind hazel that steadied me at the free throw line when the gym was too loud. Omari, he says, pleased. You a man now. Trying, I say. He waves us to the couch. There's a framed team photo from '98. He touches it with a finger like blessing. Kenya introduces herself and says what she does. Coach's smile thins, but doesn't disappear. Journalists kept this city honest when no one else did, he says, courteous wary. She doesn't ease into it. Kenya believes in the cut that saves time. She shows him the FOIA paper. He reads it. His face closes like a fist. That's wrong, he says. What part? She asks. All of it, he says. I quit auxiliary before '97. I never worked a hold. I would never. The last sentence cracks. Someone used your name? I ask. He looks at me with grief. I loved you boys, he says. If my name is on this, it's a lie. Then help us, Kenya says. Tell us who back then would have needed a coach's presence to calm a situation. Tell us who you deferred to. Tell us who parked in our lot. Did Holt ever come by? Janssen? A muscle jumps in Coach's jaw. Holt came by, once, after Darnell, after that night. He asked me questions. He took a copy of the roster. He said he wanted to make sure no one was recruiting your boys to do stupid things. I remember thinking, you are the man who recruits boys to do stupid things. His eyes go distant. Luttrell, he says, like he is calling himself from a distance. They told me I was helping. Isn't that something? Did you call Mrs. Bird's house? Kenya asks. He looks offended in old pride. No. Do you know who did? He shakes his head slowly. If I did, would I be standing here? We leave with nothing you can print and everything I need to break something. On the stairs, a kid runs up carrying a basketball, almost as big as his torso. He grins, jumps to put it under his arm, misses, laughs, tries again. I step aside to let him pass. He thanks me with a voice like my own was at his age. Back in the car, I stare out the window. I don't know if he's lying because he's guilty or because he can't stand the version of himself that let it happen. I say. Kenya is silent a moment. Both can be true. Her phone dings. She reads and her eyes widen. Theo's friend came through. A switch log, illegally. Don't ask from where. It shows an outbound from a trunk line in the 7th District Annex on November 13th, 1998, at 2:16 A, routed through a payphone mask. Duration, 7 minutes, 9 seconds. Destination, Mrs. Bird's number. My heart slams once. So, the call came from the annex. Kenya nods. Which the FOIA says held DB. That call might be your proof that he was alive that night at the annex, under someone's watch. And then, nothing. I think of Mrs. Bird's pearl armor. I think of silence. We need inside that annex, I say. It's closed now, Kenya says. They turned it into a storage facility for seized bikes. But buildings hold memory in their walls. Yeah, I say. Let's go hear the walls. The annex sits behind the main district house, a squat building with a chain-link fence and a lock that looks brand new in a way that means old fear. We come at twilight when shadows are longer, and the security guard is a man in a yellow jacket who wants his cigarette more than he wants us to not exist. Kenya distracts him by asking where the bathroom is in her best lost cousin voice. I slide to the side gate. The combination lock has a blade of aluminum flashing jammed into it to keep the shackle from sticking. Someone who uses it often made it easier. I pocket the flashing and try the gate. It gives. We slip in. Inside, the hallway smells of rubber and dust. Bikes in rows tagged with the small failures of city life. No bell, missing front light, red frame, rear rack bent. But beyond the bikes, a door without a tag. Kenya tries it. It opens on a short staircase down. The basement is the kind of place bad stories. Live cinder block walls painted a brownish white. A drain in the floor. A flicker of fluorescent tubes humming at a pitch that wants to drill into your teeth. Along one wall are 4 small rooms with heavy doors. The doors have new padlocks on hasps that look older than my life. Each has a little rectangle of plexi where a nameplate could have slid. Kenya takes photos like she's a machine. I press my ear to one door. The room beyond is empty in the way an empty room holds air differently from a full one. I can smell old metal and the ghost of sweat. On the far wall, there's a corkboard under a tarp. I pull the tarp. The corkboard is pocked with old holes. In the corner is a brittle index card forgotten by whoever cleaned this place. It's typed, case no, 98AR646, not for official entry. Initials, KHTJ, in pencil. Blue sweep hold for release pending. I want to vomit. My hands shake. Kenya snaps photos so fast the shutter clicks become a metronome. Back, she whispers suddenly. Footsteps. 2 sets. Voice is a young man complaining about his shift, an older one soothing. We flatten behind a stack of broken racks. Keys jingle. A door opens, the one at the top of the stairs. Light changes. If anyone's caught down here, the older voice says. They won't be, the younger says. No one comes down except us and the bike people. They don't care. I hear them cross the concrete. A padlock clanks. A door opens. Air changes again, stale breath. You hear about the reporter asking questions? The young man says, careless. Reporters always ask questions, the older says, not careless at all. They get bored. They said she's from down here, knows people. Then she knows when to be careful. They close the door, relock, and leave. The building exhales. I realize my hand has been on Kenya's forearm and remove it. It leaves a worn print. We wait 5 minutes. We move. Kenya points to the index card in the corner of the board. We have the number, the place, the call. We just need the person who signed. KHTJ, Holt and Janssen. And whoever told them to do it, I say. We slip out the way we came. The guard thanks Kenya for directions to a bathroom she never found. Night has sharpened. We walk fast, but not too fast. At the corner, a car idles with its lights off. My skin prickles. I put my body between Kenya and the street without thinking. The car pulls out and rolls past slow. A silhouette in the passenger seat turns like curiosity and sticks a moment too long. The car has a broken left taillight. I stop breathing and start again in a rush. No, I say. Kenya watches the car disappear. Coincidence, she says for the benefit of my heart. She doesn't sound convinced. We go to Manny's because it feels like home. Hot oil, old baseball posters, a calendar with a woman in a bikini that Manny swears he's too old to notice. I print the index card photo on his old brother printer in a grayscale so muddy it looks like a storm. I lay the printouts on the workbench, smoothing them with my palms like maps. Don't get caught with those, Manny says, peering over. Cops come looking. You playing Nancy Drew won't help your case. I'll hide them, I say. The door buzzer squawks. Manny curses, wipes his hands, goes out front. I start gathering the papers when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. My whole body tightens like a knot. I answer, put it on speaker, because my hands are full of adrenaline. Omari, a man says. Older, smooth. I hear you've been asking about things better left in the ground. Who is this? I say, and my voice does not shake. Someone who remembers you as a skinny kid with a busted pair of sneakers and a big mouth, he says. You don't want to go where you're going? I already went, I say. And I didn't like it, but I'm still here. A chuckle. You got jokes. Come to the lot behind St. Teresa's on 65th. 10 o'clock. Alone. Why? I say. Because you want to ask me what happened to your friend. He pauses. And because you want to know why your name was on a list right next to his. The line goes dead. I stare at the phone. I stare at the papers. I stare at the door like the right answer might walk through. I call Kenya. She says, no. He said, I don't care. No. We don't meet unknown men in empty lots at night alone. Not in this city. Not when you're on parole. Not when we got cops on the board. He said my name was on a list. She swallows a curse. Okay, she says. Then we go. But we don't go alone. We go with a plan. I hear Manny talking to a customer about brake pads. I hear, under everything, the hum of a Crown Vic that might be long gone, but lives in the concrete anyway. 10 o'clock, I say. 10 o'clock, she echoes, and it is a promise and a warning both. Outside, the sky is a lid. Inside, paper waits for us to turn it into something louder than silence. The city doesn't sleep so much as turn over, restless. By the time the clock drags toward 10, my nerves are already raw. The lot behind St. Teresa's is wide and cracked, weeds growing through seams. The church itself boarded up with the last of its stained glass sold off in the recession. Kenya drives, headlights off, pulling us to the side street. The air smells like damp concrete and smoke from someone's late barbecue. Remember, she says, no matter what he says, you don't let him corner you with guilt. You're not a boy anymore. I don't feel like a boy, I say. You still carry that night like one, she replies softly. We step into the lot. A car sits idling, black paint swallowing what little light the street lamps give. The driver door opens. A man steps out. He's older, hair thinner, stomach fuller, but his shoulders are still wide. Detective Kyle Holt. The same Holt from the memo, the index card, the story Brooks was too scared to tell whole. Wade, he says, like we're old teammates. Still standing, good. Kenya shifts, recorder in her pocket already rolling. You called me, I say why. Because you deserve a straight line, Holt says. He smirks at Kenya. And because reporters always spin. I thought I'd give you the courtesy before it all blows up. You took him, I say. You and Janssen. Auburn Ridge Gym. Crown Vic. Broken taillight. Sharp memory. Holt doesn't flinch. We were told to bring in boys who looked like they had shine. The kind that drew gangs, or could turn into one. We weren't supposed to hurt anyone. Just hold 'em, scare 'em, make 'em useful. Useful? My voice cracks. Information, Holt says. Recruitment, pressure, leverage. Kids are currency if you know how to spend them. Kenya's face goes rigid. Where did Darnell end up? Holt pauses. The lot hums with the idle car behind him. That's the thing. He wasn't supposed to leave my hands. He was signed over. To who? I demand. To someone higher, Holt says. Orders came down from the deputy superintendent's office. Task force budget nobody traced. They said Bird had a cousin in a crew. They wanted names. He wouldn't give. He was 15, stubborn. They moved him to a temporary hold. Next morning, File was gone. So was he. Kenya steps forward. And you just let it happen? I was a soldier, Holt says, jaw tightening. You think one detective goes against the city machine and lives to cash a pension? I kept my mouth shut. I drank. I retired. And the city stayed quiet. You called me to confess? I say, chest heaving. I called to warn you, Holt says. Jansen's not me. He doesn't care about closure. He's still in it, dirty as the day he started. He knows you're digging. That voicemail you got? He sent it. You don't stop, he'll make you wish you did? Kenya's eyes narrow. You expect us to believe you're suddenly a whistleblower? I expect you to survive, Holt says. And if you're smart, you'll burn every paper you found. Some doors don't open without burying you with them. The car revs. Holt turns like he's done. Kenya says, wait, one more thing. That night, did anyone else sign that intake? Any initials besides yours and Jansen's? Holt hesitates. Then, LD. Coach Davis. My stomach hollows. Holt sees it hit me and shrugs. He thought he was helping. They all did. He climbs back into the car. It pulls out, taillights red, fading into the night. Back at Manny's, the three of us, me, Kenya, and Mrs. Bird sit with the photos and memos spread on the workbench. The voicemail plays again, Darnell's breath filling the room. Mrs. Bird holds a hand to her chest, tears spilling steady, but quiet. She listens to the tape 5 times, as if memorizing her son's voice again. We can prove he was alive after, Kenya says. The call, the hold log, the annex. If we publish, they'll deny, I say. They'll smear. They'll call it old wounds. Conspiracy? I'll get violated on parole for breathing wrong. Mrs. Bird looks at me with steel under the grief. Omari, baby, let them try. You've carried this longer than anyone. Don't let them tell you it's just in your head. Kenya nods. We go public, now, before they have time to scrub again. The story runs 2 weeks later. Kenya writes it clean, relentless. Every fact checked twice, every hole marked with sources. Blue Sweep, The Vanished Boys of Chicago, runs on the Tribune front page, and their site explodes with clicks, comments, fury. Photos of Darnell Beam beside charts of missing names. The voicemail leaks, the index card leaks. And suddenly, the city can't pretend. Jansen resigns within 24 hours. Holt is subpoenaed. A grand jury whispers about sealed facilities and temporary holds. Families of other missing boys come forward with photos, stories, the same hollow echoes we've lived with. The city council calls for an inquiry. The superintendent sweats through his suit. It isn't justice, not yet. But it's daylight. The last time I see Mrs. Bird, she's standing on her porch again, but not in a robe. She wears her Sunday best. The candle on the mantel has burned down, replaced with a framed clipping of the headline. She takes my hand. You gave him back to me, she says. Not his body, not his years, but his truth. I want to tell her truth isn't enough. But the way she says it, Maybe it is. One night, walking home from Manny's, I pass a playground. Kids shoot hoops under a busted streetlight, balls slapping the cracked pavement like a heartbeat. One boy laughs, high and bright, the way Darnell used to. For a second, the crease of time folds, and I'm back under that light, running, yelling, not fast enough. But when it unfolds again, I'm still standing. And for the first time in years, the weight on my shoulders feels a little lighter. The city hums, alive, flawed, refusing to forget. And so do I. Not every story ends with justice. Some just stop, where the paperwork does. But if you listened closely, this wasn't just about what happened. It was about what we ignore, the assumptions we let slide, the voices we tune out because they don't come in the right tone. Somewhere, someone's living with the fallout of this story, not as a headline, but as their everyday. So if this story stayed with you, don't let it fade. Shine it forward. Ask more. Doubt what's too quiet. Because what we choose to see, or not see, decides what happens next. Like, comment, share. Not for clicks, but for clarity. Because awareness is how silence breaks, and how truth finds daylight.